July 2, 1987, Los Angeles. Trading is abruptly halted on the NASDAQ exchange as a hyper-ambitious 21-year-old entrepreneur named Barry Minkow resigns from his position as Chief Executive Officer of ZZZZ Best Carpet Cleaning. Within hours, a public company valued at over $200 million on paper completely dissolved, exposing a corporate asset sheet built entirely on thin air. The astronomical valuation was a total structural mirage, sustained by a single operator who created an empire out of fictional paperwork. Minkow had started the business out of his parents' garage as a teenager, rapidly scaling the brand through aggressive local advertising and a hyper-charismatic public persona. Wall Street underwriters quickly took notice, hailing him as a generational prodigy of the American dream. To justify massive infusions of capital and a historic public offering, Minkow claimed his company had moved beyond residential cleaning into highly lucrative commercial insurance restoration contracts. The financial sector accepted the data with absolute compliance. Driven by the intense speculative boom of the mid-1980s, institutional investors aggressively backed the venture without verifying the underlying logistics. Minkow had discovered a terminal loophole in corporate auditing. In a market obsessed with explosive growth metrics, you can report millions of dollars in continuous revenue without ever cleaning a single building. To maintain a multi-million-dollar deception against elite accounting firms, Minkow targeted a critical operational vulnerability: the total reliance on third-party documentation over physical verification. In the auditing landscape, verifying a commercial transaction relies heavily on verifying the paper trail. Minkow weaponized this administrative reliance by creating a completely fictional ecosystem of shell companies. He established a front operation called the Interstate Appraisal Service, hiring co-conspirators to pose as independent insurance adjusters who routinely confirmed multi-million-dollar fire and water damage restoration contracts to anyone who called to verify. The internal logistics were fastidiously executed. Minkow's team manufactured thousands of fraudulent insurance invoices, forged bank statements, and generated hundreds of fake customer accounts. Whenever Wall Street banks demanded to see the physical transaction records, Minkow presented immaculate, cross-referenced folders that perfectly detailed hours of labor and material costs for building restorations that had never occurred. The regulatory systems were so blinded by the perfect paperwork that they continuously issued massive corporate loans, completely unaware that the company's primary source of revenue was a printing press. The architecture of the deception sustained itself for years because major accounting firms continuously validated ZZZZ Best's financial health. The illusion finally faced a critical threat when top-tier auditors from Ernst & Whinney demanded a physical, on-site inspection of a major multi-million-dollar commercial restoration project in Sacramento. Minkow did not have an active project. To bypass the physical audit, he pulled off a massive theatrical gamble. He located a massive, unfinished corporate office building that was still under construction by a completely unrelated development firm. Minkow bribed a night security guard to gain unauthorized access to the property over a single weekend. His crew spent thousands of dollars putting up fake ZZZZ Best signage, scattering industrial cleaning equipment across multiple floors, and staging active work zones. When the Wall Street auditors arrived for the scheduled site visit, they walked through a bustling, highly convincing commercial restoration zone. They saw workers moving equipment and supervisors carrying clipboards, completely blind to the reality that the entire scene was a temporary stage production set up for less than 48 hours. The auditors signed off on the physical asset sheet, completely fooled by a weekend prop. The illusion permanently fractured when a small-scale independent investigation exposed a series of historical overcharges on residential credit cards, triggering a sudden cascade of public scrutiny that the fake corporate infrastructure could not sustain. When the banks demanded immediate physical access to secondary project sites, the math completely collapsed. The infrastructure dissolved into zero overnight, prompting a massive federal investigation by the FBI's white-collar crime division. Forensic investigators bypassed the elaborate paper trails, directly cross-referencing the physical utility records and property deeds of the claimed restoration sites, proving that the company's entire commercial division was a complete ghost variable. In 1988, Barry Minkow stood trial in a California federal court. He was found guilty of 57 corporate criminal counts, including bank fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering, receiving a 25-year federal prison sentence. The ZZZ Best scandal permanently altered the regulations of public market underwriting. It proved that the ultimate vulnerability of any regulatory system is an industry that values visual and administrative confirmation over absolute material tracking. It left behind a chilling historical lesson for modern investors. If the paperwork is perfect enough, an entire empire can be completely staged over a single weekend, right up until the science steps in.